Dear friends, I'm Professor Wen Tiejun from Beijing to speaking to you. And today I will stress the key points to let you know the situation of the food and the climate change. The first, I need to tell you that what is the worldwide economic situation because of the crisis happening in the whole world, especially in these developed country like United States or like China. So almost all of the governments adopt the policy to enlarge the financial capital. The more paper currency created out, the more the high price in the food market happened because a large number of this paper money flow into the food markets certainly will make the food price increase very fast. Such kind of crisis happened in 2008. That year, we have 38 countries fallen into the hunger crisis. Nowadays, this danger still be in front of us. So we need to pay attention to know that we will have the food inflation in the world. So that is the one I think that I need to emphasize. The second, the global warming nowadays make a lot of country, not only this island country, but the mainland country also have a very severe disaster like China. Now this year, we have in North China, they have got 3 times typhoon. Originally, typhoon happened in South China, in the coastal area, but nowadays it's attacked the North China into the deep land. Means that North China originally is the area for food production, for grain production. And so more than half of the grain produced in North China, especially Northeast China. But because of the typhoon, not only destroyed the field, but also make big flood. So that is a very big change these years. And southern China originally plant the rice. And rice need more waters. But this year, in this summer, because of no typhoon, no rain, some place even cannot have enough water for planting the rice. So the food situation now in China became somehow severe than before. And fortunately, these 13 to 14 years, and China has created the storage, the green storage, and then the country still can use their storage to solve the problem if they're facing the shortage supply of the food. But for other developing countries, if they cannot have enough the government's subsidy, no enough budget, they cannot store many food for their people. That will be big hunger. So such kind of problem happened more and more severe to make us to aware we have to change our so-called development. We cannot just follow the developmentalism. That is a very radical model for our developing country. And then we got to do some analysis about the rural situation, the agricultural situation. I think that there is a very big strategic change in China since the year 2007. The central governments set up a new idea for the development. They announced that so-called scientific development view turn to the ecological civilization as a kind of the mind, as a kind of thought to guide the country develop into the new alternative that is ecological civilization. you may know that most of our developing countries all follow the Western countries' model to set up the industrialization. But since the early new century, China aware that such kind of industrialization in China has been enough, because it destroyed a lot of environment and used out a lot of resources. So they need, I mean, this whole country, this biggest population country, cannot stand such kind of big destroy. So they got to change to alternate this country's direction from industrialization into ecological civilization. That is the beginning of this new century. And then they started to emphasize the new countryside construction. That is the 15 years ago. And then nowadays became that every year they used almost 1.5 trillion Chinese yuan for the infrastructure construction in countryside, or for the social welfare, education, medical service, and these public goods into the rural area. So to make the peasants have a more better social welfare network. Most of these investments benefits the local, especially the infrastructure construction. So this year, they're facing the challenge of the global warming, and then the typhoon covered the whole North China. That is a big disaster. And I mean, before that, 10 years or 15 years ago, when China started to invest into the infrastructure construction into the countryside, these facilities play an important role to prevent people from the big flood, from the drought and whatever. So at least China still can have their food supply. Yeah, we must pay attention to the pollution, because now the agriculture has been the big contributor of the area pollution in China by using a lot of chemical fertilizer and other industrial products. So then since the 2017, the Central also take the suggestions of the environment protection, started to change the agricultural production way. Originally, they use more chemical, more machines. Now, machine they still need to use because the labor price increased very fast. But they are trying to reduce the chemical investments, especially the fertilizer and the poisons. So they set up a new direction. They want to whole China change into so-called green development model. And then they are trying to mix the different different industries into the agriculture to make the producer can have their interest not only from agriculture but also from the other business. So it means that to give them a more so-called properties. So the more properties means that local peasants households can have some benefits from the properties they own. So many now benefits, the rural benefits, the peasants benefits, the environment's policy, now one by another created by central and local, and also welcomed by the local people. So our social organizations, such as the rural reconstruction, as a kind of social movements, you have a more space, more room for development. So nowadays, our group in different local became very busy. We are trying to help the local village, local governments, and the local institutes to follow this big change in strategy in the country's development. We are trying to regenerate our ecological civilization. That is we do have a very severe problem, but we do our efforts, especially to mobilize the common people to join our movements, trying to use these policies and to make our direction going into the new society that is ecological civilization. Thank you very much.